Hey, this is Paul from SP Filmviewers. Hope you're all doing well and happy 2025. And today I'm going to bring you a video on all the films I watched during December 2024. Yes, I know this is a bit delayed in getting this out to you guys, but hope you enjoyed what I've got to be going through today. As it was Christmas, we obviously watched some Christmas films for the podcast and also just some of our favourites just as a casual watch as well. So I'm going to go through those first. One of the first new Christmas films, or shorts in this case, that we watched was An Almost Christmas Story from David Lowry. So a little short that appeared on Disney Plus, and it was quite enjoyable for what it was. I think like the art style in particular was what really stood out to me as like something unique, with all cardboard cutouts and everything as the other characters, and everything making it look like it's made of materials, like stop motion style. But I feel like some of it will have been, or majority of it will have been in 3D with just like the 2D looking effect of the designs. But it was alright story, nothing groundbreaking or anything like that, but a kind of little sweet tale that kind of would, I say, keep the kids entertained, as it were, even though I don't have kids myself. But I think it was kind of like just something that was just really unique, and it's a good way to kick off December, really. And there was another two Christmas films we watched with a sort of similar theme, one we've seen before and one we did for the podcast, or in fact, one we did for the podcast a long while ago. So we have Tokyo Godfathers from Satoshi Kon and The Holdovers from Alexander Payne. So this one is the one that we reviewed a long while back, and we only had a DVD of it at the time, and it was something that I was like, oh, I don't know why I didn't get a Blu-ray copy of it, because I think I knew I was going to like it because it's anime and I'm really sucker for that. The story in this is very heartwarming in the sense of like it's like a like chosen family, basically, because the characters in this are all homeless and they are taking care of an infant child, and they're trying to get it back to its rightful parent. And so like the kind of like learning from each other as they go along, and so like, you know, like they do get along with one another, but I think it's more like strengthening the bond between them and show that they actually do care for one another. Now this one is a new watch, and it's also a 4K, and we really enjoyed it when we reviewed it for the podcast. It has that 70s style to it, the aesthetics, and even like the sort of like grain that happens all over the filter of the screen, and it very sort of obvious at the beginning of the film. Then as you're going through the film and watching it, you kind of forget that it's there, but it kind of, there's like the little flickers of like grain and the old filter of the like a camera effect going on with it. But I mean, this is another example of like a chosen family film, but these ones are more like, oh, I can't stand you at the beginning, and then they generally get to grow with one another and develop that sort of like connection, and see like they're not too dissimilar from one another. I mean, like, it's fantastic. It's quite a long one. It's quite a long film, but I definitely think it's worth a watch. And it's been said about it, like, they don't make films like this anymore, but they did. So I definitely think it's worth checking out for your next December watch time, absolutely. So obviously go and check out the podcast episode for this, and this one too. So then we have two 10 out of 10 Christmas films for me and Sophie. One is It's a Wonderful Life, this lovely steelbook that I got a fair few years back actually, and I don't even know if this is even in print anymore, but I was quite lucky to get hold of this, because I think this would go for a fair price now, really, on the secondary market and everything like that. So it's I mean, it'll look spectacular in the 4K with the black and white, as it normally does, because obviously the balance of the grayscale and everything really shines, really. And it's something that we've kind of, well, Sophie definitely, it's like one of her favourite films, and it's definitely grown into one of mine. I mean, obviously, like, from the get-go, and as I've gotten older, I found myself relating more and more to George Bailey and his character, and it makes me cry blubbering wreck by the end of the film. I think it's just, yeah, again, sort of like another heartwarming tale that kind of makes you reflect on your own life, essentially, and makes you realise how important you are to everybody. You may not think it, but you are to somebody. Yeah, so a very, very strong recommendation for this movie. And the other 10 out of 10 Christmas film we've got, and one that was mine and Sophie's very first film we ever watched together, Love Actually. Now, it wasn't in this Blu-ray case at the time, which was, I think, it's like a HMV exclusive slip case and box design, but yeah, this one is just an all-rounder like ensemble cast for British people of the early 2000s, and like an early role for Hugh Grant, Colin Firth, and everything like that, Emma Thompson. There's various storylines going out throughout the film, and I think, I don't know if obviously it's something I've grown up with for the longest time, even before I met Sophie, and had it on like DVD and everything like that. And I think it was just something that's kind of like, I'd say like a nostalgia kind of thing with it, but not, if that makes any sense, because it's just something that's always sort of been on my radar for like, so watch every sort of Christmas. I think just because it's like fun, like British humour, kind of that semi-awkwardness about it, but there's also a bit of charm. Truth be told, there's some things that are a bit outdated in terms of what the content of certain things are, like how people act and stuff. It's a bit like, ooh, it's a bit creepy thing, but we kind of look past that a little bit. I think we kind of just find it kind of jovial, really. And I said to Sophie this year, for something different with this film, we'll put the director's commentary on, and we did actually learn something different from this watch, which we sort of never twigged on before, because we were kind of like just taking it as is and kind of just relaxing with a drink and everything like that. They pointed out the fact that when Hugh Grant's Prime Minister character is walking through the house and meeting Natalie for the first time, when it cuts between the close-ups and the long shot with all the other characters, you notice that his tie is different. I've never noticed that before until they brought it up, and it's like, oh my god, like, yeah, I can't believe that we never saw that before. And now it's going to be something that, again, that's like we're all going to be looking out for, essentially, every time we watch that. It's like, oh, something new. So it's always insightful to maybe sometimes have the commentary on a film that you've been watching for forever, basically, or even just like the extras on discs, because they do offer some like behind the scenes stuff that you might not have even known about before. It's probably just worth getting a bit of background on something that if you're really passionate about the film, it's like, oh, you might not have known about that, and you've kind of learned something from that, and it'll stick with you on future watches. So it's probably always worth doing. So maybe not everybody's cup of tea, to be honest, but if you like British comedy and romance things, then I think you'll probably get some enjoyment out of it, but just take it with a pinch of salt as to whether you get enjoyment from this. One of the other main Christmas films we watched on physical media this year was Gremlins. I've got this 4K box set from Warner Brothers. I'm kind of annoyed about this, if I'm honest. Like, not the film itself. The film's great and everything like that, and definitely like a alternate Christmas horror sci-fi kind of film that you can get away with, and it's kind of lighthearted. It's definitely very Steven Spielberg-esque elements to it, for sure. Even, I don't know, so Steven Spielberg presents on the cover here, but the thing that annoys me about this packaging in particular is when they say they do booklets for films like this, like, you've got this limited edition packaging and everything, it's really nice high case and everything, but the case inside is just like a standard 4K case, nothing special like that, not even a steelbook. And then you get the inside gubbins of a little slip with some art cards in here. I'll show you, like that. You can see a few handfuls there going through that. So great, fine. Again, not the biggest thing on them. They're okay for like a moment, and if it's something that's worth, like, oh, that's like a nice thing to hang somewhere, then fine. And then there's like a poster that comes out here as well, which I haven't hung up, but I don't know if it's, I guess it would essentially go somewhere nice, but I don't know where it's. I've got a bunch of them in different various special edition boxes and never know what to do with them. But the main annoyance with this set, to be honest, is it got this booklet, sure, fine, looks all nice and everything. Now, all it's got in here are just more promotional pieces in like shots. It's like, great, again, I don't really care too much about that. Or if you were to add some like essays in or something like that, you know, some write-ups about the film, like, oh, how influential it is or something like that, you know, it's a bit more something that's a bit more extra to it, like I was saying before about like with Love Actually, and it you know, offering some a bit insight into how the film was made or somebody's experience with working on the film or something like that would have been nicer for the price point. But it's something I got a long time ago, so I don't even really know how much it was. I probably it was like 30 quid or something like that. But again, it's something I don't even know if it would be something that's even on the secondary market now or how much it would go for. But yes, it's still a really good alternate Christmas horror film, and it's one that, truth be told, I'd seen Gremlins 2 before I saw this, as daft as that may sound, and so there's more of a nostalgia thing for me and more of a liking for Gremlins 2, or appreciation rather, for the film as opposed to this one. I mean, yeah, the puppets in this, they're okay. It's nothing. You take it for what it is. Whereas I think, despite Joe Dante's, like, oh, I'll just make another film for Gremlins 2, they look so much better, and there's a lot more engaging, like, variations of the Gremlins in this. Obviously, I think you've got to go bigger and bolder with a film like that. Even if you're forced to make it, then you do. So I don't know if this is a film that we will inevitably cover on the podcast at some point. I feel like it will do once we kind of run out of things to talk about for Christmas. But let us know in the comments if that's something that will be of interest to you. So then we go to other Christmas films that we watched on streaming. One of them being, it was a Netflix special from Sabrina Carpenter. A Nonsense Christmas with Sabrina Carpenter was the like 45-minute like SNL type musical special. We like her music, and that was the main takeaway from that special, because I can't really be doing with the SNL type skit short things. The humour is just so cringe. I don't know. It's like, are people still impressed or find that amusing at this stage? Like maybe back in the day when it was like they were probably more like clever writing, but I just don't see what the appeal is with that. I don't know if it obviously meant to make it like semi-cringe because it's like a Christmas special, and it's kind of like a wink to the audience about it, like, oh yeah, this is really like hokey and everything like that. But even so, it's just like, yeah, no. Yeah, if it's been one of the things that like to do, where you just do it pottering around, like wrapping presents, something not really focused on it, but we kind of like sat there like for 45 minutes looking at it as if like, oh yeah, we're proper invested in it, but it could have been doing anything else, and just listening to the music would have the exact same experience, to be fair. Another Christmas film that we'd considered watching for the podcast, but I was like, I didn't know what to pair it up against with, but I think in maybe next year or at some other point it'd be worth doing an episode on, because one reason is I wanted to watch in the best quality possible, but we'd only watched on Amazon Prime this time around. It's just like a first watch, so I think maybe next year when the price goes down in like the 2 for 30 sale or something, I can pick it up for Christmas time. But the film in question is 1954's White Christmas with Bing Crosby. Now the thing is with this film, I'm sure Holiday Inn, which also stars Bing Crosby as well as this film, I'm sure the names of the titles got mixed up, or like they go by the same name depending on where you're from in the world, I thought, but I could be wrong about that, or it's just misinterpretations of something like that. But so it was a bit like, because we didn't really like Holiday Inn, I feel like it was a bit like risque with how they handled some of the racial thing. I think there's some like blackface isn't part of one of the sequences in Holiday Inn. So I was like, is it going to be like some more of the same? But there was a lot of charm in the film. And for Sophie, who really likes films like The Sound of Music, any musical dance number type films of that sort of era, she was very much invested in the film. And I definitely think there's probably more talking points to bring up next time on a future watch. So maybe for next Christmas, which is going to be this year, obviously, back end, we might be covering the film. So look out for that. A Christmas themed film I watched on my own, however, was It's a Wonderful Knife, which is on Shudder. As the title suggests, it's like a play on the fact of, oh, what if a character wasn't born, but it was like showing the fact of, oh, if you didn't stop the killer in this instance of this murderous rampage, then things will be vastly different in that sense. And so it's kind of like, oh, I've got to go back and fix this so that this doesn't happen, kind of thing. And I mean, you take it for what it is. I think Justin Long, who's one of the bad guys in the film, shall we say, he looked like he was having fun. That's the main thing. I think he's very much tuned in on these sort of like horror films these days, and it wasn't anything spectacular. Characters were majority annoying, really, but for like for a streaming service, in piquing my interest on like, well, how is this going to play out in a similar way, it was okay. Yeah, I don't think that's a very strong recommendation for this one, but it's nothing groundbreaking, so maybe give that a pass. But if you like your slashers with a different take on things, then probably maybe worth checking out. Another unconventional Christmas film which I came across while scrolling through Mubi was a film simply titled Carol, which stars Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara, and it's set in the 1950s, and it starts off in like a department store, and the two of them meet, and it's kind of like the relationship they have with one another, which I feel like is kind of like a sort of taboo type of thing in that, even in that era, really, and kind of like how they fall in love with one another in this film. And it's a very good, really great drama film, and I think there's a lot. It's not just solely centered around Christmas as well, so I think you can kind of get away with it watching it any time of the year. I think like the chemistry between the two of them is really solid, and that's why it's worth having a look for that one, especially if you're on the Mubi subscription service. Okay, veering off from Christmas films for a little while now, as we go into some other like horror related ones, or just in other like general drama films or anything like that of a different category. So one horror film in particular I checked out is The Slumber Party Massacre from 1982. This one, I could see like the appeal of it, but it doesn't really do anything for me particularly. I think there was trying to target like the female empowerment as the message of the film. It was directed by a female, but I'm not taking anything away from that. But I think just how it came across, it was very much on the nose by the end of it as well, in particular. But I don't know, it had a certain edge to it, as it were, but I don't think it was something that I'd be revisiting anytime soon, to be honest. Maybe sort of like a one and done. Don't know if the follow-up film is any better or more or less the same. If it's worth checking out, please let me know in the comments. Another horror film that kind of came across on Mubi as well, that I watched at the very back end of the year, was a film called The Falling. Now, it was listed as like a drama film, but it definitely felt like it had some folk horror elements to it. It stars Florence Pugh in her very first acting role, or major acting role rather, and Maisie Williams as well, alongside her. It's set in the late 1960s, and it takes place like a all girls school, and there seems to be like some like hysteria kind of weird phenomenon going on that's like causing all the girls to pass out. I think it's trying to go for some kind of like occult thing with like, oh, like, can't be getting pregnant at a young age, you know, like this kind of like sexual awakening kind of thing, a bit like pagan witchcraft type of thing. I don't know, it wasn't like saying that straight on, like at face value with that, but I noted down on my Letterboxd like the 50 millionth time when somebody falls over, it's like, oh, here we go again type of thing. Like, take a shot for everybody. Every time everybody does that, you'd be falling on the floor as well. So I think if you go in with it with the mind of like it's a semi folk horror, then you might get some of enjoyment out of it, like I did. But otherwise, I think it's very much not going to appeal to the mass market, really, unfortunately. Other than the fact it's like worth seeing how Florence Pugh seemed like a great actress even from the get-go, really, like how she carries film. I'll leave it there with that, but it's maybe worth checking out if you want, but again, not a absolutely you must see recommendation for that film. Then there were some instances where I was catching up on films I hadn't yet seen through 2024, and they're just like appearing on the streaming services after such a long time of, you know, being released at the cinema and everything like that. And so I was like, a quick catch up on things that have just popped up now from like the beginning of the year. So we've got films like Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, which after seeing Godzilla -1, it's like I can't go back to like these ones that these American studios offer now, because it's just not the same. Now it's like, oh, now this is what you can have from the actual proper country that's, you know, invented Godzilla essentially, and it just doesn't work the same. It's just very much, oh yeah, tried and true. It feels like very much edging into Transformers areas of like a big blockbuster schlock, really. Even the fact that Kong has like this glove that looks very much like a Transformers half destroyed thing attached to his arm, it's like, oh, it's just maybe I'm just getting old and it just doesn't appeal to me anymore. But maybe younger self would be like, oh my god, this is like the greatest thing ever, but doesn't do anything for me anymore, unfortunately. As much as I love Godzilla, not a very strong film. Also got Civil War as a first time watch as well. Now, the visuals on this, absolutely spectacular. Shame I can't say much about the story and, again, what the message of the film was trying to get at, really, other than that, oh, war is bad, war is pointless. It's like, yes, we know. That kind of level that civil wars seem like, yeah, what is the point of them? I'd like to have had a bit more background, maybe onto why this even occurred, but it's nothing to do with the fact that I'm expecting something like an actual war going on type of thing, where you've seen in that. I know it's more about the photography of war and taking captures of like how, like, what's occurring in the world, or more the United States in this case. But like, I wouldn't even say like Kaylee Spaney's performance in that was like mind blowing as to how she came across like that. I'd only seen her previously in Alien Romulus, so I hadn't seen this before that or anything like that. So she was serviceable in Alien Romulus. That this, I don't know if she'd get the same like level of performance of that. But Kirsten Dunst, always excited to see her in films. And like one of the favourite scenes from the film was when she kind of like came across with a like troop of people, came across Jesse Plemons' character as one of the militia soldiers in that sequence, and it's like how cold he was in that scene, and like the fact that they were kind of playing across from one another side of like the good and the bad kind of thing, but they're actually married in real life, so I kind of find that sort of amusing. That must have been fun for them to do. But visually stunning, but that's the main takeaway from the film, unfortunately. Then we have a couple of, again, very low bar horror films, which I didn't expect much from anyway, but I thought, well, they're on streaming, I'll check them out, see what they're like. We've got Sting, which is about like a spider from space that kind of just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and like, you know, like a pet for one of the girls in the apartment block. It wasn't anything spectacular, nothing I've not seen before. I feel like it's sort of like, in a way, mimicking like how Alien is, really, how influential that must have been for the film, I guess, with like, it was like something was there in the vents and you've got to get away and avoid it. I honestly don't think it's something I would ever really go back to. It's a one and done, really. It was more a curiosity. I think it was like, oh, it's on Netflix or wherever I watched it. I can't remember now. It was that impactful. And one of the other ones that was very much like absolute, I feel like a waste of time, was Imaginary. The main problem for me was I was watching on TV, and it was like, I don't know if it was the quality of the stream or something, but I was really struggling to see like what was even going on in the background. I cannot see a thing in this film, like to be like even be scared. Like, I don't know, this maybe the setup at the beginning was intriguing, but you don't even see much of the monster at the end, and he just looks really crap anyway by the end, and it's just like at that point you're just so not invested, you don't really care. And I don't know, just the whole storyline behind it just seemed kind of weak and everything. And I can't even really say the performances were that great, but like a Blumhouse type of thing, I think it kind of just, it makes money just because it's like a cheap, quick way to get people to go see it in the cinema, and like sort of like a endorphin fix of like horror scariness, but it's really, really not. I don't really see the appeal. If anybody does really like this film, please let me know if I'm missing anything there, but not one I would ever come back to. Right, a couple more from the streaming services. We've got Cuckoo, which was a really intriguing horror for like the first half, and then sort of like dwindled in the second half. I think it was when they started introducing like I won't go to spoilers, but like the scary woman character with a CGI jaw that stretches, which I can't be doing with that. It just looks so cheap and just takes me out of the film, really. Just the initial setup for things led me to believe it was going to be something really great, but then it kind of just fell flat by the end. It didn't really intrigue me, so I don't know if this is something I would even consider rewatching or not. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't think this is a very popular film anyway, but I feel like it's a lot better than Imaginary was. Also got Kinds of Kindness, which we watched on Disney Plus, and truth be told, we did have to break this up into 3 parts, which is okay because it was like a 3-parter anyway, so it was like an hour to watch one section, take a break for all the weirdness and sanity that Yorgos Lanthimos seems to have in his films, and then like a long couple of days away from it, then come back to another one, like taking it in bits, because honestly I don't think if I'd gone to see it at the cinema, but like in taking it all in, it's like, oh, this is too much, too much weirdness. But by the third one, even though the fact that we spaced them out, it just didn't catch my attention as much. I think it was like the novelty had worn off with the film. I think really, the fact that they're using different storylines with the same cast of actors in different roles was interesting. I don't even know if it'll work on a repeat viewing with, again, breaking up in segmental parts. But if you like Yorgos Lanthimos and these other films like Poor Things, you might get something out of it. But a very, very hard sell for anybody who doesn't or hasn't really checked out his other work. If you do end up watching it, do it in segments. I think that's probably the best way to do it, unfortunately. One of my favourite physical media releases of this year was from Radiance Film, and getting to rewatch Haxon in this lovely edition with this really hard box again, and but thing with actual writings in it and everything like that, really opened up on experiencing again. A long time ago, I'd kind of imported the Criterion from the States. There was a problem with the disc actually that was on my Region A player, that it wouldn't read them. It was like struggling to read, and I had to keep rebooting it and things. So I was a bit like, oh, well, that's taking the enjoyment out of it from the get-go with the film. So I never really gave it the proper time of day, and on a skimming through on to make sure the disc was working. So I never really got the chance. So, but I think, oh yes, well, I definitely invest money and time to see in this film, and boy, is it fantastic. The colours, the transfer and everything like that, even like there's different cuts, there's different scores involved in the film. Very much big into my folk horror, so this is a no-brainer for me to pick up something like this, especially in something such as a gorgeous packaging design like this. Honestly, it's fantastic. And it's like one of my favourite physical media releases of the year. And another silent era film from the 1920s that I've rewatched, but I don't have the case with me at hand, I think it's actually downstairs, is the 1920s Murnau film Nosferatu. Watch this in sort of preparation for Eggers's version of Nosferatu, sort of like get the sense of what I remember from watching the 1920s version a year ago, and sort of like in my mind, go like when I go to see the film very, very soon, is to do a sort of a comparison in my head of like how things, what things work. Are they better? Are they worse? That kind of thing. And I also took the opportunity to watch Nosferatu the Vampire from Werner Herzog and his version of the story, which like kind of blends the original Bram Stoker version and the Murnau version, which was kind of like a take on that tale anyway, so kind of putting both together. And it works pretty well. I think, seeing it in the quality I did, I think it definitely would benefit from like a 4K transfer. I don't know how old that version of the print is, but I think that would have definitely, for a viewing perspective of the film, would have been absolutely fantastic to have seen it in a better quality. But I think there was a lot to like in that film, so I'm very excited to see Nosferatu from Robert Eggers, and going to be probably doing an episode on that as well, so be on the lookout for that in the near future. So a few more to cover for the end of December 2024, which were Wallace and Gromit, Close Shave, one of my favourite shorts from back in the day. That's something that's really stuck with me. It still kind of crops up in mind, like when I think of Wallace and Gromit, like the early days of that. It has very much like a dark edge to it. I know people also say like the wrong trousers is for the Feathers McGraw character in that, but there's definitely some like dark sinisterness in a Close Shave. If you know about the dog Preston in that, how that kind of comes about at the end particularly, and just other elements of it really kind of gives like a child friendly horror vibe, if that makes sense as well. So that was really fun to revisit. And that was because we'd watched the new Wallace and Gromit film Vengeance Most Foul. That came out on Christmas Day for us, and so it was on the BBC iPlayer. After the fact, obviously, once everything's kind of settled down, we've had a moment to like, okay, let's watch this hour and 15, 20 film, and it was really everything I expected it to be and more, really. Just the antics of Wallace and Gromit, for somebody who's grown up with him for such a long time, throughout his pretty much his like young life and beyond, then it's fantastic. Like the fact that he's still making films like this is still blows my mind, really, like how much detail and effort goes into putting the film together. I loved it so much that we've done an episode on it in conjunction with what we scheduled for SP Filmviewers podcast for Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And so I watched it again, or we watched it again rather, for like it was just so much fun. It's like I wanted to revisit it again, because it's like, again, it was a short run time and just some easy going and just more appreciation for the background visuals and jokes and everything like that. So we do talk about that on our first episode of 2025. So if you want to go and check that out, then you'll find it in the YouTube videos or wherever else you get your podcasts from. And just before 2025 rolled in, we decided something very short to keep Sophie awake, really, keep her attention up while, like in between like playing games and having drinks and stuff. We put on Charlie Chaplin's Circus, which was only a short runtime of 72 minutes. We wanted to seek out more Charlie Chaplin films because they are generally, like I said, in a short runtime. We really enjoyed The Kid as an episode for the SP Film Viewers podcast to cover a film such as that in his filmography, and so This is like a nice one I got from Criterion in like a bundle from eBay. I'm quite lucky with picking some of those up because it's like some of the best of the best really from his filmography. So yeah, this one was very entertaining, really. I mean, it's a circus, so it's got to be. The fact that he sings the song at the beginning is really kind of eye-opening in a way, because it's like, oh my god, like, Charlie Chaplin really for the fact of him not talking, but the fact that he's singing a song at the beginning is quite spectacular. This was really a joy to watch, and I think it's definitely one that we'd come back to, much like with The Kid, and very much looking forward to maybe covering some more films from his filmography in the near future. So there we have it. There are some films, quite a lot of films in fact, that I watched throughout December 2024. Was there something there that you agree with, like in terms of like recommendations of films? Is there something that you're thinking, well, I judged unfairly, or am I completely right about the scoring of the film that I gave it? Let me know in the comments what you thought of the video, and any recommendations for films I should check out in the near future for obviously my ever-growing watch list of films to check out. Really appreciate it also if you like this video, subscribe. Really hoping to make a big push with it this year and keep talking about films throughout the year of all the months of what I've been watching. So very much appreciated you taking the time to check out this video, and I'll speak to you next time.